I believed him. Javier always claimed he was an orphan. He spoke little about his childhood, only mentioning that he grew up in an orphanage in Oaxaca. It sounded lonely, but also noble, like he had made his way in the world without support. Still, my parents were determined. As their only daughter, they wanted a beautiful celebration. "It's not just about you, Mariana," my mother said firmly. "It's about honoring family and community." So we booked a luxury hall inside one of Mexico City's most elegant restaurants. The chandeliers glowed like stars, blossoms filled the air with fragrance, and nearly 100 guests, all from my side, gathered to celebrate. Javier was quieter than usual, his brow heavy with thought. I assumed it was nerves. If only I had known. The ceremony began, music swelling as Javier and I exchanged vows. I gazed into his eyes, steadying myself against the rush of emotions. But then, in the corner of the hall, something caught my attention. An elderly couple stood quietly, apart from the crowd. The man was frail, silver hair thinning, his frame trembling as he leaned on a worn cane. The woman clutched a faded cloth bag to her chest, her sorrowful eyes locked on Javier. Their clothes were humble, patched and faded, completely out of place among the silk gowns and tailored suits. A chill crept over me. Who were they? Leaning toward Javier, I whispered, "Darling, who are those people? Why are they here?" He flinched, then muttered quickly, "Probably vagrants who sneaked inside. I'll have them removed." I stopped him. "No, wait. Let me ask them to sit. They're elderly. Poor souls. Let them rest." Before I could move, my mother seized my arm, irritation flashing in her eyes. "Mariana, don't let strangers spoil this day. Call the guards." I pleaded softly, "Mom, please. They're doing no harm." But it was too late. Waiters were already escorting the couple out. They didn't protest. They simply bowed their heads, trembling, and stood outside the hall without even a chair to sit on. My chest ached, but the ceremony swept forward, pulling me with it. During the banquet, Javier kept glancing toward the entrance, his hands fidgeting restlessly. I couldn't shake the image of the couple waiting outside. When the celebration ended, I excused myself and went to them. The man's voice was weak, trembling as he spoke. "Miss, thank you for caring. We didn't want to intrude. We only wished to see our son Javier one last time." I froze. "You know him." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "He's our boy, but he no longer accepts us." The ground seemed to shift beneath me. Javier had told me all his life he was orphaned. Yet here were two frail figures claiming him as their son. Heart-pounding, I call Javier over. "They say they're your parents. What is happening?" Javier blanched, his lips parting, but no words coming. "Mariana, neglect them. They're mistaken." But his eyes betrayed him. I demanded, "Tell me the truth, Javier. Now." And so the truth spilled out, first haltingly, then completely. They were indeed his parents, poor farmers from a small village in Oaxaca. When Javier was little, crushing debt and drought left them unable to feed their children. In despair, they placed him in an orphanage, hoping he might survive and find opportunities they could never give him. Years later, when they had managed to recover a bit, they sought him out. But by then, Javier was studying, building a new life. He rejected them, ashamed of their poverty. He told people he was an orphan to avoid explaining. Through an acquaintance, they learned of his wedding and came, not to disrupt, not to beg, only to glimpse him, to see their boy once more. I turned to Javier, my voice trembling with both rage and heartbreak. "You deceived me all these years. You discarded your parents out of shame." His jaw tightened. "Mariana, you don't understand. I just wanted to escape. They gave me nothing but poverty. I wanted you to have a life free from that burden." Tears blur my vision. "And you thought happiness comes from lies, from scorning your own blood." I removed my wedding ring, my hand shaking, and pressed it into his palm. "This wedding ends today." Gasps rippled through the hall. My mother tried to intervene, whispering, "Mariana, don't ruin this." But I stood tall. I led the couple into the hall and guided them to the main table. My voice carried through the heavy silence. "These are Javier's parents. Forgive me for not knowing sooner. I will look after them." The room fell still. Guests shifted uncomfortably, the glow of chandeliers suddenly harsh. Javier stood frozen, unable to speak. And in that moment, Beneath the very lights that had been meant to celebrate our union, I chose dignity over deception. In the weeks that followed, I accompanied the couple to the hospital. Javier's father was gravely ill. As I helped him settle, I noticed the faded cloth bag the woman carried everywhere. Inside, beneath layers of fabric, lay a small wooden box. Within it was a deed, land in Oaxaca, worth millions, purchased and registered in Javier's name. They had not been beggars after all. They had worked for decades, sacrificing everything to leave their son a legacy. Despite his rejection, their love endured. I sold the land to cover medical treatments and built them a modest, comfortable home. For the first time in years, they knew peace and security. When Javier came to me weeks later, his eyes red with regret, he begged for forgiveness. "Mariana," he whispered, kneeling, "I was wrong. I see it now. Please, let me make it right." I shook my head, steady but gentle. "You chose the wedding lights, Javier, but you ignored your parents' gaze. Some choices can't be undone." He collapsed in tears, but I was no longer the same Mariana. The problem wasn't only his lies. It was the coldness with which he cast aside those who had given him life. I lost a husband that day, but I found something far greater: my dignity, my voice, and two parents who, though not mine by blood, became mine by choice and by love. Sometimes weddings reveal not just promises, but truths long hidden in shadows. Beneath the chandeliers of that hall, I thought I was stepping into marriage. Instead, I stepped into a new kind of family, one built not on deception, but on compassion and truth. And I would choose that path 1,000 times again.